Hello everyone, I'm Tag
And this is Bob.
and you're listening to Bob and Tag Talk.
Before we start the show, I'd like to point out that the topics discussed on Bob and Tag Talk are for informational purposes only. So please do not take this as investment advice. We urge you to do your own research before making any investment. So today we'll talk about businesses, basically how businesses run, how they sustain themselves, different types of businesses and their target audiences and all. So
Everyone knows, everyday products that we use generally. So there are like premium high-end products, and then there are like low-cost products, which we generally like daily use.
Right.
And things like that. So some of the examples of business, probably we can take an example for today's discussion, is like Apple. Apple has a lot of consumer products which are really premium, high quality.
Right.
And then we have also, if you look at other high quality product businesses, we can take an example of Starbucks or even Titan in India. They are really luxury products or high-end products, high quality products, which are with a high markup ratio. When you say markup, it's like a markup of the price. So generally they don't give discounts. They don't provide any kind of low price things like that. They have different brands for low price. They have different brands for high priced products. And then we have things like D-Mart, Star Bazaar, which are actually retail but very low cost.
Right.
The whole advantage is like
It's affordable.
it's affordable and you're getting it at a discount, and you can buy in bulk and things like that. So these are different business strategies. And then
And their target audience is completely
target
different.
audience is completely different, and the profits they make is completely different. How do they scale? And how do they make profits is
Right.
completely different.
Right.
And even when you come to Ayurveda, we have something like luxury Ayurveda products.
Yeah, forest essentials. Yeah, that is one.
That
yeah.
is one. And we have basic Ayurveda products, so which are low cost, which are affordable. What is the difference? How do these businesses make profit? Why do they don't compete with each other?
Right.
Even though they are in the same domain, even though they are in the same kind of products, but they're completely different companies.
True. Yeah.
We will also see like what are the different business cycles, what are the things that are affecting a particular business, like
Okay.
inflation, how inflation affects these businesses, and in case of a recession, how does these businesses get affected?
Right.
And there are a lot of other negative scenarios that can affect a business. And how do these businesses sustain themselves in these kind of scenarios, economic scenarios? Or some there could be a crisis, like there could be a shortage of some raw materials. Like for example, nowadays we are facing shortage of chips, hardware
Right.
chips.
Right.
So that is affecting a lot of IT businesses or hardware businesses, even automobiles. It's affecting. There are a lot of these things, overheads for a business to run, and they'll affect the business cycle, affect the even sometimes you can also consider like labor problems. These are very different issues that can affect a business. So it's generally you need to be aware of all these kind of overheads for the business and what kind of effect that could have. And you will at least be need to aware of, okay, if you're holding a share of a particular business for 5 years, these things are possible. So you'll
Right.
have to assess them and you have to include them in your risk analysis.
Got
Right?
it.
At least if you know, okay, you know why exactly this happens and why does the stock price of a business go low and can it recover from it. So these kind of analysis are essential even in our day-to-day investing. So let's take an example. Which business you want to start talking about first?
How about we start with Starbucks because it's premium. It has completely different consumers. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Starbucks is like one of the premium coffee beverages kind of an outlet. So we have other competitors in India,
Right.
Indian companies. So do you know
Coffee
any?
Day.
Coffee Day is one, yes.
What else? There's Barista, I suppose.
Barista is international again. Yeah,
Okay.
that's also again. We have some local coffee houses in each cities,
Right.
and then which are like competitors. So the difference is in pricing. The difference is in how the store is designed, what kind of customers they want to attract, and actually the price. Sometimes the sourcing of the raw materials. So in Starbucks, you have some really unique flavors.
Yeah, they've got some grande, they've got different, they've also got sizes, variations,
and
they've
the
also
beans,
got
coffee bean variations,
right.
like Ethiopian or some really expensive variation. You have heard about civet coffee?
No.
Okay, civet coffee is like the coffee bean eaten, coffee fruit eaten by a cat, and its excrement, it excrements the seeds, and that particular seed, coffee seed, is grounded into a coffee and made. So it's very expensive. This is very, very expensive.
Okay.
And then you have Ethiopian coffees and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
And then a lot of African or even South American, Brazilian coffee. It's different depending on the beans. You get different flavors and you get different tastes.
Got it.
And these kind of, when you import them, it becomes a premium
it becomes
product.
expensive. Right. Okay.
And even in, like, if you take Indian, so you have the coffee that is coming from Chikmagalur in Karnataka or coffee estates. And then even if you take tea, Assam tea, Darjeeling tea, even Kerala tea, different prices.
True.
And different flavors and things like that.
Yeah.
So these are the different kinds of products that the business use. So you take an example of Coffee Day and Starbucks. So Coffee Day has been a successful business for a long time, but since the passing of its founder, it's been struggling for some time. For example, it serves good. Starbucks is premium. So even you can also say Coffee Day is not exactly low end or low cost, but compared to a Starbucks, it is a little bit cheaper because it's Indian products and Indian sourcing basically. The cost is low. So what is, if you take Starbucks, so what is exactly, how do they design their stores? It's very important to them. Basically, they are trying to attract a kind of higher paying customers. And they are trying to keep the most important thing for them is the ambience of their stores. So the stores are designed for, let's say, for example, people to spend their times in. If we want people to spend more time, they have this kind of really nice, comfortable seatings, really better dining scenarios, really good dining abilities, and then they'll provide you really good service. And the most important thing is, like, how do they showcase their premium products? So if you go to a Starbucks store, there will be a particular section which has a brighter lighting, and they will really showcase those products, high-end products, really nice way. And then they'll also have other low-cost products, but this will not be highlighted. Probably it will be lower. It will be below your eye line. You will not see it first. And how do they design their menus is also very important. So, like, some really like people love chocolate. So let's say chocolate things are the bigger fonts, are really nice pictures, pleasing pictures, and then there are some other options.
There are certain options that don't have pictures.
Exactly. So which one do you highlight? Which one do you induce your customer to probably? Basically, it's called nudge. You're nudging your customer towards a particular section of products.
Got it.
The same thing they have with, for example, every store. Even you go to. Whatever products you buy, when you're checking out, when you're buying, you'll have this small section of snacks, small section of chocolates, or some items like what do you call, breath mints or something.
Even keychains and all.
Something like that. Collectibles, something like that. During buying, probably you can think of buying it and just picking it up. So all these, there's a lot of thought that goes in when designing a particular Starbucks outlet. The same thing goes for a Coffee Day outlet or a Tata coffee outlet. And these things are important. And the kind of customers that you attract are really high premium. So for example, if coffee prices go up like 20% or 30%, the raw material of the coffee beans really goes up 30%. It will not affect the price of that particular coffee. Because eventually it's marked up at high values. So for example, if you consider the labor costs, if you consider the raw material cost and transportation costs, and then cost of the rent of that particular place, they take everything into account, and let's say eventually one cup of coffee, it will eventually come to, let's say, 40 rupees or 50 rupees. They price the product to 100 or 150. So the profit margins, they keep it in such a high buffer rate, so that even in the changes in raw material costs, labor costs, whatever happens, the profit margin is not affected too much. There will definitely be some delays like COVID, or some scenarios like COVID where your customers are not coming in, where you are going into losses. But generally, for 80% of the time, you are trying to see that your profit margins are not disparately affected. So it is at least minimum effect. That's what you are trying to see.
Right. Okay, so I understand the Starbucks business model. And so I'm wondering, what about the other Indian brands like Kothas Coffee?
Yep.
So obviously they target a middle class.
Low cost, basically.
Yeah. Basically, their products are much more affordable. And they price it in such a way that they still make profits, but
Yes.
it's still more affordable than Starbucks.
Yeah.
So, what is their model like, and how do they figure how to sustain themselves?
There are like one other options at least in Karnataka, we have Kothas coffees, we have Kalmani coffees. Same way in Chennai, we have their own local, very popular coffee brands. So their main target or their main focus is volume.
Okay, right.
So their cost is very low. Their raw material cost is very low. Sometimes they don't even have these high premium outlets. They target these places where there is higher footfalls, more people coming in. As more people they come, so they are trying to sell more volume of their particular coffee brand or coffee product. So keeping their costs low, trying to get more scale.
Right.
It is more people.
Right.
So they are trying to keep their profit margins. Profit margins are very low, but they are trying to make sure that they have a minimum number of sales.
Then these sort of more affordable businesses that rely on volume would have really taken a huge hit during the pandemic, right?
True. At least for example, if you take the example of Kothas Coffee, who are actually present in a lot of hotels who sell their products, they will probably sales would have been largely affected.
But even then, it's not to a point where they cannot sustain themselves, right?
It depends actually. For example, whom are they distributing their coffee brand to? For example, if it is primarily restaurants and coffees, if restaurants and coffees are closed, they should have at least a corporate distributorship. Corporate companies are buying it, or individual houses are they really buying it? It depends on them. But the thing is, for their raw materials at least, they could hold on, they could store it for a longer time.
Right.
So they will not have a loss as such. It depends on the shelf life of their product.
Okay.
Generally coffee shelf life, if it's packed well, it's a little bit longer. So you don't have to
Worry too much about it. Okay.
Next is we are also having businesses like D-Mart, Star Bazaar, which are low cost businesses which really sell in high volume. They are available in multiple stores in a city. They are available in multiple cities and throughout the country and so on.
Right.
So their whole thing is discounts, keeping their costs really low, low employment costs, low cost for their storage or low cost for their transportation, and really selling in high volumes, and probably sourcing of their products. They try to source directly from agricultural people or directly from companies in such large volume that the companies which are producing it give them a large discount.
Okay.
And then they transfer these discounts straight to the customer.
Okay. And what is the profits that these guys make for each of their product?
Profits will be very low. I mean, like profit margins are very low.
Okay.
The total profits, if you take for a D-Mart or company like that, it will be very high because they're scaling it really in a large way. But if you take for one product that manufactures for 4 rupees, the retail costs are like 1 rupee or something. The profit margins also be the same margin. 1 or 2 rupees maximum profit the retailers will make.
And I think it also tells you what sort of products they sell. They sell mostly essentials.
Essential items, yeah.
People
daily use, personal care.
Yeah, people will keep coming back to buy these items every month. Those sort of items.
So it's very important that they have a good relationship with their customer. So the customers keeps coming back for these small purchases every week or every 2 weeks.
Right. So would it be fair to say that they focus more on at least decent customer service?
Yeah, decent customer service, faster. They try to become because their volumes are very high. Probably they have a lot of customers coming in. So they're trying to sell faster, more things faster.
Got it. So that is their main thing. Okay. And I think during the shutdowns, the lockdowns, restrictions, these sort of businesses, D-Mart and all,
because they're essential services.
Yeah, they might have taken maybe a slight hit when it comes to the timings and all, but even then, because it's all essentials, obviously, even when we go to the supermarket, we've seen like huge lines where people are just waiting to buy, and they're willing to wait to buy these products also.
Yeah, and D-Mart has really done well in the past 2 years as well. The profits have grown. They have because they have a lot of stores providing really good products at good prices. So people do have to go there, have to buy something.
Right.
Sometimes what happens is you tend to go to buy one or two things and you buy more
Right.
because it is cheaper or something.
Right.
So these are some ways probably they make a little bit of a extra profit.
Okay.
Even though you go to store to buy two things, you end up buying 5 things or 8 things.
So I get that, they have a lot of different stores, even in the same city and all of that. But even then, are the profits they make substantial enough to sustain them?
It all depends on scale. If you do it really on a large scale, that is when the profits are sustainable. Take Amazon for an example. Amazon provides you a lot of options. Try to provide you a lot of different price range. At the end of the day, their whole thing is customer service with shipping. As long as their shipping and customer service is good, people will buy in large quantities. So they'll come back again and again to Amazon, and then they provide a lot of value in that way. So it's all about volume. So Amazon does a lot of volume online. DMart does a lot of volume in their stores.
Got it.
So one of the main things that affects all businesses is inflation. So inflation is the rise in the purchasing cost.
Okay.
So the raw material cost increases, the fuel cost increases, so transportation costs are increasing. So how do you pass this cost of manufacturing, cost of transporting, eventually to the price of the product, so your profit margins are not affected?
Okay, so that is why they
So
increase.
let's say every month you're making a profit of X amount. In spite of rise in cost of raw materials, cost of transportation, or any other rising cost, how do you keep your profit margins the same? The only way is eventually you have to increase the cost of your product as well.
Right.
So this is one of the main ways how companies handle this kind of inflation.
Okay.
So one thing is pass that price increase to the customer. Customers was paying 5 rupees before, they have to pay 6 rupees now because of inflation. So in this way, the company is protecting its profit margins. Other ways to do it is, for example, very price sensitive companies or products like Parle-G biscuit. Parle-G biscuit you've been buying for 5 rupees for n number of years. Or even Cadbury chocolate. You have been buying Cadbury chocolate for 5 rupees for a long period of time. If it's 6 rupees or if it's 8 rupees, you will really feel the pinch.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what they do is they try to shrink the size of their product. So if Parle-G was 10 years ago, it was 5 rupees, they would have been selling 10 biscuits. Now for the same 5 rupees, you get only 5 biscuits.
Right.
This is the shrinkflation. It's called as shrinkflation. It's also another way to handle inflation.
Okay.
So inflation also can be handled in multiple ways, but there are companies who have no effect even though there is inflation.
Right.
These are all high premium, high value products like Apple. Apple doesn't care what the inflation price is. The company will still continue to make profits. They price their particular products at such a unique high range so that they convey to the customer that this is a premium product, and generally there are no discounts. Generally after probably 2 or 3 years they discontinue some products, but they definitely don't decrease their price.
Right.
If you're paying like 30,000 to 50,000 rupees or 60,000 rupees, generally it doesn't go lower than that. You'll get better products at better prices. No, they generally don't get better prices, increased prices always.
Increased prices. Okay. They're never... Okay, yeah, that's how they deal with inflation. I get that.
These businesses don't really care about inflation. Their profit margins are high profit margins. So even their input costs are very high, or raw material cost is very high. They somehow managing pricing of their product, and they manage their profits.
And one more thing I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned shrinkflation, right?
Yes.
That's one way where they reduce the size of the product for the same price.
Yes.
This is for businesses that cater to more affordable sort of line. So what are the other sort of ways by which these sort of businesses deal with inflation, other than just by shrinking their packaging size?
Eventually they have to pass the price to the customer. That is the main way. Otherwise they can do some kind of efficiency. They could cut down people, employed people. They could cut down some stores if they're not making enough profit.
Right.
Probably they will cut down the stores which are performing really, really poorly. They'll close down those stores. They'll only have those stores where a lot of people are coming and things like that. That is one way to protect their profits.
All right. So far we've seen the different types of businesses that exist in the market: luxury, premium sort of services. What is their customer target, and how they make profits, how they sustain themselves through inflation. And the same goes for businesses that target more affordable products, and how they sustain themselves through volume and things like that. So, are there any more examples that you can give for more of the luxury sort of brands, and then the more affordable alternatives that are there?
You can take it with any retail product that we buy. So we have luxury, premium personal care products.
Mm-hmm.
We have cheaper personal care products.
Mm-hmm.
So different companies, different they're targeting different audiences. And if we take, for example,
And the personal care industry, as far as I know, it's a very competitive industry also. There's lots of small businesses
Yes.
coming up.
yes,
And the small businesses are actually, in high competition with the other luxury brands also.
most of the small businesses don't target low-paying customers. They always target premium customers. It is not sustainable if a small business targets gets into competition with DMart.
Correct.
Because scale is the main thing. You cannot scale up that easily for a small business. Unless, for example, if you take software, it's easier to scale software. But it's not easier to scale manufacturing or sourcing raw materials. It is very, very difficult.
True.
So that's why they get into really higher margin or premium. They try to target premium customers.
What other sort of businesses? What about KFC, McDonald's, and all? Where do they come here?
Both KFC and McDonald's are competitors in the same range. They're generally targeting volume and scale. They're trying to target fast foods. So yeah, they're generally in malls. They have their own outlets. So there's a very interesting case study about McDonald's. That's a very popular book about how McDonald's was started and who, the founder of McDonald's, how he scaled the brand. There was one interesting question like, what is McDonald's selling? What do you think McDonald's is selling?
Fast food.
Generally, that is not true.
Okay.
Sometimes some people say that McDonald's is selling an experience rather than selling fast food. It doesn't matter what they sell. They can sell anything they want. And the other approach they're saying is McDonald's is actually, buying a lot of real estate. Real estate is their main business. That's how one of the founders or the person who started McDonald's said. McDonald's is actually in the real estate business, not in the business of selling. They can sell whatever they want. They just buy real estate. They have a store around it, and they just sell something just to keep that cash coming in.
Interesting. That's an interesting.
They own most of
thought.
the stores.
Okay.
They don't lease generally.
Okay.
At least in the US, it's so. I don't know if in India also if it is so. Because in India, McDonald's has generally partnered with some other Indian company, a retail company, and then that company takes the brand. It's most like a franchisee. So they are like a franchisee. They take the brand name. They use the brand name. They use the recipes and products. And eventually they start a store. But yeah, in different countries, probably they have different models. Can never say that it is the same.
Interesting. So this is also about branding. So branding is very, very important.
Branding, product placement, what is the target audience, how do they advertise, whom do they advertise? Do they advertise towards kids? Do they advertise towards young people? And for example, even where do they place these ads in television? For example, in sporting things, you have different kind of advertisements.
Right.
And if you say news channels or some other channels, they have different kinds of products that are advertised.
True.
The target audience is completely different.
Okay, so that also matters where you place the ads. Obviously, marketing matters. We all know marketing matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can also take an example of oil marketing companies.
Right.
So generally in India, oil marketing companies are Indian Oil, HP, Bharat Petroleum. We have an international competitor like Shell, or even a national competitor that is Reliance. Reliance also have their own kind of they sell basically petrol and diesel.
Okay.
So the kind of type of service they provide there's a lot of difference in it. Indian Oil has a lot of volume. So most of the Indians go to Indian Oil or HP. They fill their vehicles with either petrol or diesel. And if you want premium cars, and if people own premium cars, and if you want premium petrol or premium diesel, you generally tend to go to Shell.
Okay.
And there's a lot of restrictions in the design of that cars, the engine of the cars.
Okay.
So most of the engine of high-end automobile products generally don't work well with this Indian Oil. So that's why Indian Oil also has a premium version.
Oh, okay.
They have basically they call a simple product of petrol, and they have a premium product.
Okay,
They
I didn't
have
even
premium.
know all of this. I didn't know that high-end automobiles
Yes.
don't work that great with.
Your engine gets damaged
Uh-huh.
if you continue to put the normal petrol
Uh-huh.
in high-end products
Mhm.
like BMW
Mhm.
or any other like Audi.
Got it.
So those kind of things are there. And the way is the service provided.
Mm.
So generally, if you see now, these kind of oil companies have started their own small stores
Mm.
where you can buy some snacks,
Mm.
buy something essential, or
Right,
they also
right.
have their coffee store or something
Mhm,
like that in
mhm.
their within their own
Vicinity.
outlet.
Okay.
And that's a really good case study that generally they do with business.
Mm.
So generally, this fuel outlets
Mm.
are generally like franchisees or people who generally go in business
Mm.
with Shell,
Mm.
and Shell generally gives the petrol
Mm.
or they give the fuel,
Mm.
and they design their particular security mechanisms or
Mm.
whatever
Mm.
mechanisms, the design of the bunker and everything.
Mm.
They provide it, and they expect you to sell this amount of petrol every month.
Okay.
That is the kind of business arrangement.
Mm.
So let's say there are two outlets on the opposite sides of the road.
Mm.
So it's a lot of very popular case study done in a lot of business schools.
Mm.
So generally, like, so what do you do to differentiate your business? You have a competitor right across the road to
you,
you.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you differentiate the business?
Mm.
So if one of the outlet decides to give free air,
Mm.
free windshield wipe,
Mhm.
and probably free engine oil change,
Mhm.
so it is very difficult for the competitor
Mm.
to not copy it. If
Obviously.
he doesn't copy it, he'll go out of business.
True.
So it's a really kind of thing. The main thing is customer service.
Mhm.
That is the only way to differentiate,
Mm.
because the products are almost the same.
Mm.
Unless if both are selling premium products,
Mm.
the only way to differentiate is customer service.
Mhm.
So another way to really differentiate your business, or even sometimes really handle the difficult economic scenarios or really inflation kind of scenarios, the best way to provide is really good customer experience.
Mm.
That is the only way you can differentiate. Sometimes when you're increasing your prices, if you provide better customer experience along with increased prices, sometimes it's a good way to transition into a low margin to a high margin business.
Got
Or
it.
sometimes it's better to survive in these difficult economic scenarios.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of other ideas that a business can use. Generally, if you take Amazon,
Mm.
they really provide really good customer service.
Mm.
They provide they provide the option of returning your product if you're
Mhm.
really not happy with it.
Mhm.
So that really establishes a really good rapport with your customer or trust with your customer.
Mm.
So okay, you can just try it out, try buying this out. If it
Right.
doesn't work out, you can always return it.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the sort of mentality that most of us
Yeah.
have when we buy a product. If we see that there is a returnable option, we'll be like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's just do
And
it.
that is one of the main reasons why in Indian online business scenarios,
Mm.
they started with pay later or
Mm.
pay when it is delivered.
Mm.
So people were really hesitant to pay before while placing the order
Mm.
and then getting the product later. What if you
Mm.
don't get the product?
Mhm.
It's difficult to get your money back.
Mhm.
That's when pay on delivery really became, or cash on delivery
Mm.
really became popular in India.
Got
So it
it.
built that trust
True.
for Flipkart and for Snapdeal and a lot of other online retailers.
Right.
There are different businesses that also provide differentiated way of servicing.
Mhm.
So for example, if you take a pizza outlet,
Okay.
their main thing is 30 minutes delivery.
Hmm.
So they are targeting to deliver fast, and they make pre-packaged foods. They heat it and they give it to you. And dine-in restaurants are very different. They
Right.
provide a really good experience. The
Yeah.
experience is a little bit more. That's what the experience is.
Mm.
Dining experience is different.
It's more
Here's the
thorough,
delivery
right?
experience in a Domino's or
Mhm.
any other Pizza Hut kind of
Mhm.
home delivery situations.
Mm.
And there's one more interesting point is that when it comes to, let's say, delivery charges,
Mm.
if there is really delivery charges are really high,
Right.
transportation charges are really, let's say for example, some locations really attract a lot of customers. Volume is really high.
Mm.
So how do you provide a better customer experience to them?
Mm.
One simple thing is pre-order and pickup.
Mm.
So let's say Starbucks is very popular in US and Starbucks. So Starbucks are during office hours, before the office starts, there's a long line always.
Got it.
So they want to move the orders fast.
Mm.
So the best way to handle this is people can pre-order on their phones.
Mhm.
They just go to the store, they pick it up,
Mm.
and they directly go to office.
Mhm.
That is one way of handling it.
Mm.
So this is how there are different ways of handling huge crowds.
Mm.
And some locations have different ideas of handling their business. So for example, an outlet on the outskirts of the city, they generally provide, let's say, larger area. They support larger area. So they say delivery charges are high, transportation costs are high because it covers a larger area. So they provide the option of just order and pick up. So if we deliver to you, delivery charge is 50 rupees. But if you just order, come to the store and pick up, there are no delivery charges.
Right.
Probably they'll give you also a discount.
Right. And obviously certain places also have this thing that, if you buy a certain amount, there's free shipping involved and all of that.
Yeah, depending on the volume. If you order in more volume. There are different ways of differentiating a business and attracting more customers. And these are different for different scenarios. Different industries do well. And sometimes, if you take about Starbucks or any other things, they try to give as few options as possible. So you don't want to really stay in the line, and if you have 100 different items, it takes a lot of time to process and choose.
But then Starbucks does do that, no? They offer so many different options, no?
If your number of people coming in is really low, people can take time to place their order. But if there are 100 people waiting in the queue, like prime locations, where the number of people coming is high, so you want to highlight the top items, top 5 items, probably top expensive items, and then you want to push the consumer to choose between those 5. That's why they have these combos. So you have these combinations, you choose any one of the combinations, you get items. So they generally don't give you an option to remove this item and add that item. Either if you want order, you decide what you want and come. So they want you to decide faster. To help you decide faster, they have different nudges or different psychological things that they can probably push towards you.
Understood.
So we covered a lot of different things about the business.
Right.
So what is the main reason for covering all these things is mainly we really have to understand the business. So if you're buying a stock, you have to really understand what is the underlying business, what kind of audience are they targeting, how do they make their profits, and how do they handle these kind of stressful situations like a pandemic or really a shutdown or really labor problems. So we really have to know all these things when you're trying to buy a stock. These are really good parameters to eventually evaluate that particular business. And if all these parameters, if the company is doing well, that means the management is really good and the stock has really good future. So it's a really good investing in this kind of businesses.
Right, because the more information you have about the business, then you'll know that the stock is going to do well. So you can either invest more or keep holding it.
Yeah, that's the most important part. Sometimes these information is really useful to know whether sometimes the stock will perform really badly.
Right.
So you'll have to assess, is the business really performing badly, or is it just because of some other reasons, technical reasons, the stock is performing badly.
Okay.
As long as the underlying business is good, then you can continue to invest in that stock. Sometimes you can say that, okay, maybe if there's a labor problem, the management can solve the labor problem in 6 months or 1 month. Maybe in that until that duration of that particular year, stock price will be really low. Once things turn around, stock price can become really high as well. So you can wait it out. You don't have to sell and get out immediately. Sometimes you can just wait it out.
Right. And for that, all of this information sort of makes sense. If you know how the company is doing, then it makes a lot of sense.
The best example that we are seeing this is the pandemic. And these days of the pandemic, there's a chip shortage. Hardware chip shortage, because of which automobile companies are not able to produce really a lot of vehicles and really ramp up their selling. So Tesla does not have any of these problems. But large automakers like Chevrolet, Ford are facing a lot of problems. So this is a kind of it's a basically cyclical thing also. Sometimes some months of the year there are some issues that they'll have to face, and then the sales will be low, the stock price will be low. Suddenly, when these issues are resolved, stock price will be higher because the future is looking good. When the future is looking good, the stock will always appreciate. And when things are looking bad, it will depreciate in value. So at that time, you have to decide, do you want to sell or do you want to hold? So these are really good points to really analyze and think about before you make a sell or hold decision. And most things, before you buy, you definitely have to understand the business.
Got it. All right. So to summarize whatever we've spoken about today. So basically we've dealt with how businesses function, what sort of customers they cater to, how they make their money, how they sustain, how they handle different fluctuations, be it inflation, be it raw material shortages, etc. We saw some examples for certain businesses, certain premium businesses, certain more affordable businesses, and how they function, and more importantly, how they do their marketing, how they what are the different ways by which they can improve their customer experience. But all of this combining to tell us that all of this is really useful to know when you're investing. So all of these things are really important, and that's a good spot to end it there today. Thank you for listening to Bob and Tag Talk. Please consider following us on our Instagram and Facebook pages for weekly summaries and illustrations of the topics discussed on the podcast. If you found this episode informative, please like, share, and subscribe.